Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Soul Goals. I'm Dawn, and this is.
I'm Dixie.
Woo, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm
It's
good.
just cold.
It is so bitterly cold. Like
I
when we're
just can't.
recording this, I mean, as you're oh, look at you sipping on that beautiful mug of probably steeping hot coffee.
It is hot coffee. It says, do you see my mug says Washington, D.C.?
Yeah.
That's
Is
where my
that
High Rocks is.
yes? I was just gonna say that's where your race is. That's coming up in another month and a half.
66 days.
But who's counting?
Hashtag. I'm counting.
I love that. Well, we're going to keep you honest. Dixie is preparing for the High Rocks race in Washington, D.C. And you're doing it with someone special, though, aren't you? It's not just on your own, right?
No, my daughter and I are doing it. We're
Yeah.
doing the women's doubles. So it'll
Okay.
be fun. We have to do all the running. Everybody has to do all the running, but we can divide the fitness implements however we want. So I'm really focusing, we're really good on machines, both of us are,
Yeah.
but I'm focusing on some interval running leading up to because she's a much stronger runner than I am.
Yeah.
Obviously, she's 23 and I'm 54.
Yeah.
And she's a better lunger because these old knees. So she'll do the I'm gonna, um beg of her to take the majority of the walking sandbag lunges,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna probably swap off and do like the farmer carry because I'm super strong. I'm
Ooh,
just
that sounds perfect for the balance of the two of you, for
yes, it's
sure.
just jumping and
Yeah.
lunging has become an issue, but we're working on it. I'm doing the have you heard of the knees over toes guy?
Yes. Knees over
Okay.
toes guy is legit. Like,
Yes, love him. And so
seriously.
he says for him doing a lot of his sled recommendations
Mm,
for sled pulling for
yeah.
knee health and healing or whatever. And it's crazy after I pull the sled, like I have a belt that goes around my waist. I
Yeah.
walk backwards with the weighted sled. It's crazy how loose and good my legs feel when I'm done.
Yep.
So, dude knows what he's talking about. I love
Yes.
it.
And you gotta use it. You have to
Yeah.
use it and utilize it in the best possible way. Yeah, he's a dude, like, he knows what he's talking about.
Oh,
Knees
yes.
over toes guy, guys. Check him out.
I know
We
he's
should
so
talk about
good.
that one day. We should focus
Yes.
on,
But all the
buying
years of dancing and gymnastics and all that
Mm,
growing up, just,
mhm.
my knees have taken a little bit of a beating over the life of me.
Yes, and I'll tell you another thing that is taking a beating over the life of me is my brain right now.
Yes.
Like as
Mine
we
too.
age, right?
Yes.
So I think it's apropos we say about our soul goal this week called Getting Crafty.
Mhm.
And ideally, when I wrote this kind of shtick, if you will, for the
Yeah.
whole year, when I wrote down Getting Crafty, like my big idea was to do an actual craft, to paint or to make something. I know my younger daughter is like craft galore. Like we have a craft closet. So I've got all of the stuff for it. But for some reason, the
That's
season of
so
life,
cool.
yeah, well, she loves that stuff.
Your
And
youngest?
yes,
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
No. Yeah.
Every time I thought I'm gonna go to the craft closet, I was pulled away by something else, and since it's been after the first of the year, kind of our family goal is eating in as much as possible and prepping our food as much as possible.
Yeah.
So it just took a natural direction. The getting crafty for me for this week just basically meant to step outside of my right brain activity and to step into my left brain activity, being creative and being a little bit slower and more intentional and methodical about what it was that I was doing. So I took on food prep 101
There you
and
go.
yeah. Yeah, and I created or not created, I worked on and cooked a couple different recipes that I had not done before. And sometimes if you're making it for your family, and we had a couple guests over one
Mm.
one of these meals, and I was like, it may not be great, but I hope it turns out well. And I feel like when I had a guest over, I was much more intentional about making my food specifically and putting a lot of care into it, which
Yeah.
all that it did was it shut down my monkey mind and it put me into a little bit more easy space of existence, if you will.
Love it.
And yeah, so that was the idea for this week's challenge was taking the one side of the brain and shutting it off and stepping into that creative side that a lot of times we don't give ourselves permission to do, you know?
Mhm. Mhm. But
So
we're too busy, right? We're too busy.
oh, it's the busy, busy, busy culture that we live in. It's the go, go, go culture that we live
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know you talk about that a lot, and you are so right. We tend to do that. So the dominant side of our brain, that go side, doesn't ever have the ability to just stop and pause, or
Mhm.
rather, it has the ability. We just don't make the choice to do it. So the effort to
Yeah.
make the choice to do something a little bit outside the box that could be a little creative in nature, I just chose my cooking for the week and creating different recipes that I've never done before. So, yeah, it was what I
That's
did.
so fun. What
Yeah,
did you make? Do you wanna share something you made?
I do. I'm looking at my page. No bake maple pecan bars. FYI,
Oh,
so good.
dang.
Yeah, and it's a refrigerated item, and it uses dates to for the sweetness of it, like
Okay.
pitted dates. So, unfortunately, when I did my grocery order for the dates, I didn't select unpitted, so I had to pit the dates as
Oh,
well.
goodness. Talk about
Yeah.
having to slow down.
Right? I thought, well, then this is really doing a number for me for the week, right? So yeah,
Right.
hitting the dates and actually putting them and some pecans in a food processor to kind of chop them up to kind of bring them into a kind of a gooey mixture that you press into a pan. But I can't even express to you how good they are, and the whole family is like devouring them. So good
Love it. I
and
love
healthy.
that. That sounds delicious.
And the other thing that I made was the white bean chicken chili, which
Mm.
is a little bit different twist on it. It's not so heavy. It's a very light kind of chicken broth centered thing. It doesn't have a lot of white beans in it, but it's got a little bit more onion and pepper kind of flavor to it. Cumin, chili powder, a lot of spices went into this, which I'm super uncomfortable using.
Okay.
So I other than salt and pepper and Lowry's and garlic
Right.
salt, you know,
Yeah.
those
Salt,
are my
pepper,
go-to.
garlic powder. That's like my go-to.
Yeah, yeah, nothing wrong with that at all, not saying anything about that, but I just stepping outside of my norm for what I would do in creating and making my recipes and any food for the week, for lunches or dinners, that those were 2 things that I went, "Okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna
Yeah.
take my intentional time," and it turned out really good because I think I slowed down for it, and
Mhm.
then when dinner was over, I just actually felt really fed, if that makes any
Mhm.
sense,
Yeah, it does.
and yeah, and I felt healthy, I felt happy.
I
So,
love it.
yeah.
That's amazing. That's
Tell
so
me what
fun.
yeah, well, what did you do?
I cooked too. Um,
Okay.
I um I am not that crafty. I mean, I can be. My
Okay.
girlfriends and I every year right before Thanksgiving, we have like a craft day at one of her houses, and we do like Thanksgiving crafts and to have around the house, just kind of add to your decor for the
Yeah,
holidays.
yeah,
So that's probably the one time a year that I'm crafty, and
yeah.
I'm not super great at it, but it does require you to like, anything with hot glue, you're slowing down, you're being all
Right.
intentional. But so I did have a craft day, several months ago, but this time because cooking was in the description, you can do something like
Yep.
a craft or cooking or whatever. So I did I love to order crispy Brussels sprouts when I go out to eat
Ooh,
and
okay.
that are kind of hot and sweet.
Yeah,
So I found a recipe online and just tried it and they were amazing.
oh,
So I just took Brussels and chopped them in half, you prepare them or whatever and you just bake them on a really high heat, roast them in the oven,
yeah,
and then you make this hot honey. There was no added sugar, but it was like a hot honey and some red pepper flakes and some other spices
okay.
and like minced garlic was in there and what else I can't remember, like soy sauce, but I use coconut aminos.
Yeah, oh, so good.
Yes, I always sub coconut aminos or Bragg's, the amino acids, for
Yeah,
anytime anything calls for soy sauce.
yeah.
So I had coconut aminos and And sometimes if I want it to have more substance, I'll use coconut aminos because for some reason that seems a little thicker to me than
Yeah.
Bragg's. But
Right.
anyway, that's what I used and whisked it all up and tossed the Brussels in that. And it was so yummy. It wasn't great
Amazing.
reheated because they're kind of soggy if you reheat them. So
Okay.
I did make more than I thought I would need because I thought these will be delicious later, but they don't reheat great.
Yeah,
It's
I
kind of
see that.
like I don't really care for reheating broccoli either, but
Okay.
I do that because it's just like a means to an end to get the veg in. But I don't like what those cruciferous vegetables do when you reheat them.
Right.
So,
To
um,
kinda give you the ick factor?
I don't know. They get soft, and I'm
Yeah,
like, I want the
it's the
crunch.
texture.
I want the
Yeah.
crunch.
Yeah.
But if you like Brussels, even if you don't, I would say try it because it's like
Okay.
a sweet hot, and they're
Okay.
crunchy, and it was so good.
Yay. Well, tell me
Yes.
how it felt when you went into other areas of your life after you did this. I can't think that's the big takeaway for me is
Mhm.
that I felt like the next day I was for one, this could sound really kind of silly, but I was kind of proud of myself,
Mhm. Yeah.
for trying something new.
Yeah.
And it almost gave me a sense of empowerment. Like if I can do that, and it's as seemingly small as making a new recipe is,
Mhm.
what that can have outside of our, outside of our current day activities and what that can do for our mindset when we do approach something that is a little bit more challenging outside of just
Mhm.
cooking. You know
Oh,
what I'm
yeah.
saying?
Well, doing, particularly with a new recipe, I find that I have to just focus in because I really can't pay attention to the peripheral or kind of zone out and make the things I always make because I
Yeah.
have to, it's new. So I'm kind of concentrating.
Mhm.
But one side note, and then I'll get to your question. One side note is my whole family loved it.
Oh,
And I
good.
like that feeling of, for me, I like the feeling of seeing everybody eat what I've cooked and like it and
Yeah.
enjoy it. And so it used to, my family would be like, yeah, it's good. They were scared to tell me if they didn't. So I
Oh,
started saying, this is a new recipe. I have no emotional attachment to it. So if you don't like it, it's okay.
that's
But
great.
but I think when you cook with like, I don't know, I just want everybody to love it and I love to cook. So but
Yeah.
um but I think that as far as, yes, the next meal that I made was a beef and broccoli that I had seen. I love beef and broccoli. And this is kind of
Same.
like a healthier, like, no, sometimes you don't know what you're getting when you get it like out to eat.
Right.
And so having that and like the next day, like having it available and for meal prep, I was like, okay, it just took the thinking out of the next day. So it
Yeah.
freed my brain up to do other things.
Right.
So think
Which
about
that's
other
great.
things.
Because I
Yeah.
think so much of our brains are so go, go, go. We just talked about that initially about our society being the go culture and our
Mhm.
brains being so active and so on all the time. So any opportunity that we can get to give just a minimal amount of space even is going to create a
Mhm.
difference in the way we see things, difference in the way we move through things, and the difference in the way we maybe even analyze things for ourselves, for our jobs, for our family. And
Yeah.
like I mean, I think about everything that we're doing, like just to kind of take it to another step, everything that we're doing each week to try to uncover different ways for us to cultivate what our souls are really here to do and
Mhm.
how to help ourselves be the best versions of ourselves possible for first of all ourselves, but then extending out to our communities that we're serving. And sometimes I think it sounds kind of goofy when we do some of these things, but I also look at it as these really, really beautiful opportunities to create that space. And that's really the biggest thing is letting ourselves off the hook for just a bit of time so that we can
Mhm.
go, all right, I'm human. It's okay to do something different. It's all right to step off of the treadmill of life that I may be on.
Right.
And when we do step off that treadmill, we can see things differently when we have to step back on the treadmill. Because it's not about ignoring life and ignoring the things that you're processing, the obligations and responsibilities that you have, but it's more about adding in pieces through the year of different things that we're doing through the week that may give you the space to help be a better mom, a
Mhm.
better a daughter, a better coworker, a better spouse, all the things.
Yeah, and
So
if you I looked up like being creative and it has health benefits. Like it it does have health benefits as far as kind of the same way exercise does. It has kind of
yeah,
those same mindset things, emotional things, but also I read that when you try new things, whether it be a new recipe or something crafty, that that development in your brain as you get older is super important to
yeah,
take time to do that. And what's so funny is I didn't, this wasn't part of the activity, but then it fell in that week. But it's just now like ding, ding, ding. This was
yeah,
probably fell into that. But we had snow days during our week where we were doing this. And
yeah.
our work was pretty slow. We were open for anybody who needed food, who was working and having to work. We were open, but we were really, really slow. And we have
Right.
these coloring pages for little kids that we keep out. And so I
Okay.
just was waiting. I was at the register or whatever. So I just grabbed a coloring page and some colors
Oh,
and I started coloring.
okay.
And I was like, somebody came up, one of the employees, they're like, "Are you coloring?" And I was like, "I am coloring. I highly recommend it. I'm having a great time over here." Yes, I'm just, it's ages, what, 3 to 6 or 3 and up, but I'm doing great. So,
That's perfect.
but it just gives you kind of the sense of calm, which is
Mm,
so, I guess that's why adult coloring books are all the rage, but gives you
right.
like a sense of calm. And when you're doing something where you have to follow instructions or think about like a crossword puzzle isn't really creative, but you're thinking anything to
Yeah.
activate that brain is so good for us.
Right. Benefits the aging process for all of us.
Yes.
Totally.
Yes.
And I
Mhm.
think about, I've gone like, we've got things around our house that I've painted at,
Mhm.
like, those paint parties that you go to with your friends,
Yeah.
with your family, and I may think back, here's my ding, ding, ding. I think back to going to some of those, and when you get there to the facility, right? We're all in a group, we're all buzz, 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 talk, 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 all the chatter, the excitement of it, and then we sit down at our station and they begin telling us what we're going to do, and everything just falls silent, and we all
Uh-huh.
just go specifically focused on what it is that we're doing, but not in a avoidance way, but a very centered way. And we're doing it within a group of people. And I
Mhm.
really believe there's power in that, and
Mhm.
in that support and doing something of that nature. I guess maybe I liken it to being in church,
Oh, yeah, like
you know?
community, yeah,
Yeah, it's a
yeah, and then
community.
people say I think it's so cool in those settings where, like, I am not an artist, I don't pretend to be, but I've been to those parties, and you're looking at that blank canvas, and you're so intimidated by it, but the person that's taking you through all the strokes and what you do here and what you do there, and then at the end, you've got this beautiful picture, and you're
Yeah.
like, "You know what? I did that," and then
Yeah.
you feel like, "I just did something that I've told myself for years I was not," and,
Wow. Yeah.
I'm not, a gifted painter, but I love it when you kinda strip it back and somebody
Mhm.
shows you kinda step by step, line by line, and then you get to back up and go, "Oh my gosh, look what I just
Yeah. Well,
created. That's
it's
so
those
awesome."
limitations that we create with our self-talk. We
Mhm,
create so many of those on a daily basis, those limitations,
mhm,
like, oh my gosh, you see someone else do something and you think, I could never do that. Like, that's your self chatter going,
mhm.
but why couldn't you do that? It just isn't going to look like the other person because it can't feasibly look like the other person's,
Right,
because you're not the other person.
right,
Like I
right.
tell
There's
clients,
nobody
I'm like,
like you.
right. You're unique. And it's that sense of accomplishment that you were just talking about. I think it's really super beneficial for us to go, I can do this. I
Mhm,
am capable. And then being able to change that self talk, that's a little bit more complex and a little more challenging for us to do. But if,
yeah,
you know, I can let you off the hook and say, you're not like Joe Schmo here, and Joe Schmo is not like you, and you're not made to be exactly like the other person. You're made to connect with the other person. And how do we share our experiences if all of our experiences are the same? You
right.
know,
It would be so boring.
totally. Yeah.
Yes.
That's
It's
where we
like I think
benefit.
it's why opposites attract. I
Hmm.
say a lot of times that most of the time one season black and white and one season color and you kind of come together
Yeah.
and so one makes the other, pulls them kind of towards and the other one pulls them and together you enhance each other,
Right.
so.
It's a polarity kind of thing. That's a movement
Mhm.
towards a center line, and boy, now I'm getting super philosophical.
I
I
know.
shouldn't get like that,
No,
but
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 it's true. I
also
mean, it's like when you see people that, like you said, like, "I wish I could do that," or I could never do that because I'm
Mhm.
not as fill in the blank as he, she,
Mm,
whatever.
yeah,
And, I think that trying to become like somebody else is kind of the trap. I don't know, it's where we get insecure, it's where we're not enough or whatever. But you
yeah,
can take aspects of people's lives and say that quality is really great. How does it play out in who I am, in my personality?
yeah.
Not everybody, you can have 10 different people who are all generous,
Mhm.
but they're generous in 10 different ways.
Yeah,
Not everybody is a millionaire,
right.
and not everybody, it plays out differently in how people respond. And I think creativity is the same way. I'm not, Leonardo da Vinci or anything like that.
I'm not either.
I'm not as cool as the Ninja Turtles, but
Right. But I
and their
will tell
namesakes.
you, I mean, I will tell you, there is real freedom in being able to dive in and just say, I'm not going to compare myself and my process to someone else's. Like if I'm taking the simplistic thing of being at a paint party, like my friend, uh, Joe Schmo. I guess why do I keep saying Joe Schmo?
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
He must need some attention today.
He does, right? Well, my friend Joe Schmo that's at the
That's
paint
right.
party next to me, right? So
Yes.
Joe I'm not like Joe Schmo, but he's not like me. And it's that comparison when we can separate and leave from that, and we can really dive into being the best person that we can be. We
Hmm.
free ourselves to be that version. And then we are unapologetically real,
Oh
and
yeah.
when you are unapologetically real with who you are and who you bring to the table in your relationships, I really believe that that's when relationships either move forward or they move away. And
Hmm.
ultimately, we are here to, yeah, to align with our best possible scenarios and
Hmm.
to bring the best out of ourselves to bring to our communities. I just keep saying that. I know a lot, but it's so true. How can we serve our community? How can we do that? Well, we have to work on the inside out. It's like acupuncture. It goes to the inside, it goes to the
Hmm.
root, and then it expands outward. And that's what these different techniques and these different opportunities for growth that we're doing
Hmm.
each week kind of come into play. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I love being creative. I love having opportunities, even in a like this sounds silly, but even in a workout where just constructing one from scratch and being like, "Ooh, I'll do
Yeah.
this or I'll do that," and kind of creating that or creating a dinner. Or
Mhm.
right now, I'm in the process of updating like my home, and so that takes a whole lot of creative energy because I
Yeah.
think about I'm gonna live in this update for a really long time because
Yeah.
I've lived in the current update for a really long time. So
Yeah.
just looking at colors and,
Mhm.
color palettes and accents and whatever,
Mhm.
that's a way of being creative as well.
Right.
And I find sometimes that I'm either energized by it or exhausted by it. And I don't feel like,
Oh,
so I don't want to, I
that's
don't want to
interesting.
I don't want to poo poo on the party, but sometimes because I'm not creative by nature, I have friends that are really, really good at that.
Yeah.
And so if it's something that's like depleting you of energy, maybe reach out to somebody that's like you walk in their home and you're like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful.
That's a great point.
Like, this is what I want to do. What do you think? And then you get ideas, and then you don't have to carry the burden of, oh, is
Yeah.
this okay? Is this good enough? Is this whatever? I don't know. So,
No, I think it's great, and it's about how we complement each other
hmm.
ultimately, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And it's about allowing someone else to step into the space to go, "Hey, I value what it is that you're saying and what you have, and, how can we collaborate?" It's about collaborating.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
And finding
everything's
out how
about
you
it.
feel. I was talking to my hairstylist yesterday about the color that I was going to put in my home. She was
Okay.
like, "Oh, that's so pretty. I'm not brave enough to do that." And I was like,
Oh,
"Why? You're not brave?" Because it's like a midnight blue. It's really dark.
yeah.
And and because all my accents are, I just like jewel, colorful things. And she's more bright and white. And
Yeah.
she's like, but that's what makes her happy.
Yeah.
And what I chose makes me feel cozy. But, so it was just interesting to see the
The
creative
difference.
process in your homes
Mhm.
and your personality and
Yeah.
how that plays or whatever. It's really fun that
A
we're all so
dear
different.
friend who used to be a feng shui specialist, and I should say used to be, she still is, but she's interestingly practicing law because she's also a lawyer.
Oh,
So
wow.
let's talk about the two sides of your brain operating in very different ways
Right.
and being able to plug that in. But she talked sincerely about the way our exterior represents the interior. And
Hmm.
that's such a big thing. A therapist said that to me as well. It's about how what the outsides are doing, and not I'm not talking necessarily about what you're dressed in, but how your home is, or how your car is, or what you do with the space around you, so
Hmm.
that how that reflects what's going on inside of you at any given point in time,
Hmm.
and how you navigate bridging that gap, and how feng shui can actually help the energy flow in your home space when you're talking about redecorating and being creative.
Yeah.
Then that translates into how that makes you feel and what that does inside for you as a person, and the contentment that it brings. This, and I go back to again to the space that it brings when you get creative, and you release those expectations that it has to be a certain way, and I have to live a certain way, the day has to be this way, this way, this way.
Yeah.
No, yeah, no, even the smallest little space of, like you did, picking up a color, look at a crayon and coloring for
I know,
ages
right?
3 to 6.
I was like, I'm just going to color this because nobody was coming in. And then I thought, this is really making me feel good.
Yeah,
I feel
yeah,
so happy. I've
yeah.
colored I don't know, a winter wonderland and it was great.
Well, yes, it's getting basic. It's getting very
Hmm.
back to, but very much back to our roots of who we are, and what makes us feel good.
Hmm.
And it can be very, very simplistic. It's so you don't have it doesn't cost $1,000,000 to find out what makes you feel good. Yeah.
Of course. Isn't it interesting that this just came to me? And I'm sure that there's probably no science behind this because it's how my brain works. But it's interesting to me that with babies, like when we're raising our babies, we
Mhm.
start with like colorful things, colors, and we're not teaching them how to, when we're teaching them to be creative when they're little,
Yeah,
they're building blocks, and I'm sure that there's a reason we do that that is way above my knowledge base in life,
right.
but it is creative when they're
Yeah.
little.
Yeah.
So it must do something more
It makes
than,
sense.
yeah.
I think it's to me, that makes sense. It's very foundational in building the structure of who we are, building our
Hmm.
DNA. Well, our DNA is already built, but I'm talking about, fine-tuning our DNA, and really, as a parent, getting your kids to find the path that resonates with them by showing them everything that there is
Hmm.
that's
And
offered to
even
offer.
preschools, they're just bright and they're colorful and their drawings and their paintings and
Yeah.
their things that they put together because
Mhm.
even though they're learning, they are encouraged to be creative every single day.
So when do we stop being creative? That's there you let's throw that one out there. If we talk
Hmm.
about what we do as a culture to promote that with our youth in that
Hmm.
capacity,
Hmm.
what is it that we are doing, and where when are we stopping that? Why?
Right. I've heard people talk about this, and I don't know. I need to go back and find who. I listened to a podcast one time, and it was something about like 8 or 9 years old or something like that, that you start being like, this is the artist, this is the singer, this is the dancer, this is the builder, this is the
Ah,
this is the that.
yeah.
And we start, it may be a little older, but I don't know why 8 or 9 is sticking out, that we start to separate a little bit.
Mhm, yeah.
And I can't remember why they said that is, but it has everything to do with our surroundings, our culture. It doesn't have to do
Mhm.
with anything that we're doing
Yeah,
innately. It's
yeah.
something that we're being taught. And
Yes.
that's so interesting that, you know, why would somebody say, oh, I can't draw? Well, you drew for the whole time you were living until now, and suddenly you can't draw
Right.
or you
Right.
can't sing or you can't whatever. I mean, I know
Mhm.
not everybody can do everything, but it's just interesting
Yeah.
how we limit creativity.
Yes.
And at a certain point in our
It is
forming,
in our development. Yeah.
maturing development, that's what I'm
Yeah.
looking for.
Yeah.
So that's super interesting. I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to I'm gonna have to dive into that a little more.
I wanna know I look legit, I wanna know more about that because I feel like societal kind of beliefs and
Mhm.
that makes sense. 8, 9, 10, you're starting to get a little bit more concrete in what it is that you're seeing, what you're experiencing. So, what is the societal belief that goes away from this creativity is not the focus anymore? And I totally get it. I'm not granola out here saying, like, my
Right?
kids aren't
Let's
gonna
all just
learn
be like
anything.
free with our paintbrush. That's not what I'm
Yeah.
saying, but
That's not what I'm insinuating, but
right.
I just think that there's always a piece of that that we could probably retain and that would help benefit the growth and the foundational growth of us as a human. And knowing that when we get to our 40s and 50s like we are, that it's still something that we can access and it's not a negative to access it.
Oh no,
It's
not at all. Was it Da
not a negative.
Vinci that was Da Vinci was incredibly scientific, but he was also this beautiful artist.
Right.
So the two can coexist.
We go, you
So
took the words right out of my mouth. I was just gonna say that. They totally can. Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
So let's be more creative, Dawn.
I got you. I'm gonna go to the craft closet later
That's right. Go
today
get
and
your
do
glue
that.
gun and all your things.
I love a good glue gun. I'm not
I
gonna
do
lie.
too. Me
I think
either.
the
I
last
do
time I
too.
used the glue gun, it was not for creativity's sake. It was to fix something. So I deserve to do
Yes.
something creative with it. Yeah.
Yes. The
Yeah.
glue gun, the glue gun to me is to the female is probably what duct tape is to
To
my
the male.
husband. Yeah.
I like that.
Can fix anything.
With duct tape, you can fix most anything. My
I know,
dad
right?
used to say that.
I know, right? Mine did too.
Yeah, good. Great.
Oh
All
my
right, kids.
goodness.
Well, get crafty. Don't be afraid to go back to those roots. Pick up a crayon or two, doodle on a page, do something for a couple of minutes, just a couple of times this next week, and just see what it does for you. See
Mhm.
how your brain feels, see how your body feels after you've just spent a little bit of time off of the treadmill that we call life. Yeah,
Yep. I love it.
yeah,
I love it.
definitely.
Get off the hamster wheel
Oh
for a
gosh,
minute. Right.
absolutely. Okay. Well, until next time, my name is Dawn, and
I'm Dixie.
hey, we'll see you again next week, guys.
Yeah. Bye, guys.